Hello, everyone. My name is Drew, and I will be talking about the Albany County Public Library Teen Space. The Albany County Public Library is located in Laramie, Wyoming. There are around 39,000 people who live in Laramie, Wyoming, although you also have to take into account that the University of Wyoming is here, and so there are also those people who end up in the library. The ACPL is currently under construction. They are doing a renovation project. According to their online source, however, there is nothing planned for the teen space. However, I did end up talking to a teen service librarian, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and they said that they are actually meeting this week to make some plans for the space. The teen space in the ACPL is in this back corner here. And again, because it's currently under construction, the current entrance is right next to it. However, the main entrance is as far away from it as you could get. In fact, when you first walk into the ACPL from the main entrance, you can't even see the teen space. The teen space is back in behind the manga section and the nonfiction section, and they have used some bookshelves to further separate it from the rest of the library. The teen space itself, like I said, you can kind of see here in the bottom picture the bookshelves that they've used to kind of create the space as a separate part of the library. It has four of these chairs, swivel chairs. It's got a couple ottomans. The black square with the white is a charging station for teens to use. There is a table set up next to the Tiny Art Show, this black poster that you might be able to see in the background. There is the Tiny Art Show, which allows the teens to draw and then share their art with the rest of the library. There is also a poetry or short story display where teens can create a piece of poetry or a short story and share that. The teen service librarian desk is in the back corner, and there's also a couple other fun items in the area, like there's a sensory items area that has like fidget toys and headphones. You can see these tiles on the ground. Again, just kind of fun things for the teens. The rest of the library looks a little bit like this. There are tables with interactive puzzles and art for anyone to use. There are desks that are cubicles. There are multiple computers. The main circulation desk is in this area. And there are multiple displays usually. Again, though, from this area, if you walk in, you cannot see the teen space at all. In the teen space, they do have these just pieces of paper printed off that explain the area a little bit. The main two signs are hanging up on the poetry display, which is in that back corner next to the librarian's desk. And that sign says that the space is for 7th through 12th grades. It does specifically say it is reserved during times like 3 to 6 on Monday through Friday or noon to 6 on the weekends. There is a bit of a conundrum, I guess, that the sign that is hanging up that explains the construction has a small box that also talks about the teen space, and on that it says that it is reserved for teens and tweens. That is the only space that I saw that mentions tweens, but it does say that. Continuing on, in the space itself, that everyone is welcome to use the YA collection, but it does specify that only teens are welcome to spend time in this space. There are three basic rules that they ask teens follow, such as be respectful to everyone, each other, staff members, other library patrons, be kind, don't be rude, don't use threatening language, that kind of thing. and use the space for its intended purpose. This goes on to talk about please don't roughhouse, don't run, and please don't engage in public displays of affection. When I was looking at this space, there is definitely room to socialize, be creative, and learn. The space is fairly interactive. Again, it's a very small space, but there are two large displays that are meant for teens to interact with. And the space is fairly changeable. You can see here that the shelves are on wheels, so you could probably move those back if you needed a little more space. The chairs and ottomans can be moved a little bit, that kind of thing. I assume even the table itself can be pulled out from the wall. It is a fairly secluded space. Again, like I've been saying, it is tucked back in this far corner. You cannot see it unless you're really like going back into that space to look for it. That has positives and negatives, obviously. The space itself, though, is fairly open. It is inclusive in that almost anyone can get back in there and use the things that are back there. There are accommodations for various needs. Again, the sensory items such as the headphones and the fidget toys help with that. The space is very small, and so that does mean that there's not a lot of seating. There's not a lot of room for a lot of teens. This is really only suitable for small groups. As discussed before, the performance space is really great. The teens can add to the space by creating artworks to show or poems, short stories, that kind of thing. The area itself feels a little haphazard. It's not overly warm and inviting. It kind of feels like the library found some extra furniture someplace, shoved some shelves back, dumped their extra furniture in the area teen space. Again, when I did talk to the teen service librarian later on, we discussed that this is actually a fairly new space. And so the feeling of it being a little haphazard is most likely due to the fact that this is a new space. They probably did exactly what I said, that they probably found furniture they weren't using and put it into the space until they could actually discuss what they want to do with the space. My recommendations for this space, number one, largest, most important, is teen involvement. As I'm sure everyone read in the textbook, the cornerstone of teen library services is the principle that teens must be actively involved in decisions about their library experience. So I want to make sure that the teens in Laramie get a say about what their teen space looks like. I think that a survey of some kind should be had where they ask, are they okay with the fact that this space is back in that corner? Do they feel like something is missing back there? If so, what? What do they like about the space? What don't they like about the space? Any other number of questions. These questions can be asked. There is a teen program that is available several times throughout the month, so those teens who come to the program could be asked. A online survey could be put on the ACPL's website. They've done this for other things, so they could most likely do it for this as well. Or they could wait until school starts back up and then send surveys to local schools, and that would then also get the opinions of students who do not actively come into the library. Another recommendation that I have is looking into creating a virtual teen space. As we read in another one of the readings, using Discord to create a harmonious space for teens, we could use something like Discord to create a online space that would get rid of barriers like time and location for teens. This would be especially helpful because of the lack of space in the library. It wouldn't cost anything to start up. And also, there is weather in Laramie that means sometimes we get snowed in for days at a time. And so, having an online space would help teens who have been snowed out of town have access to socialization, information, etc. Also, another bonus, as you most likely read in this paper, is that Online spaces are incredibly flexible. Teens can constantly change and use virtual spaces like Discord for whatever they happen to need at the time. Continuing on, I believe that there needs to be some kind of inclusion for teens that brings them into the library as a whole. Because they are back in that corner, as we've discussed before, they're really not represented in the rest of the library as a whole. So, number one is asking them, do they actually like being back there, or are we segregating by keeping them back there? YALSA's space guidelines describe the benefits of reserving a space where teens are the primary occupants and where they are buffered from threatening adult-initiated interactions. So it is completely possible that upon talking to the teens that they might actually decide that they do like being back there because it does create a bit of separation from adults. If that is the case and they want to stay back there, which is what I am assuming, then I believe that some kind of art installation or something, possibly taking that tiny art show and putting some of it in the main library, or taking some of the poems and short stories and putting that in the main library, would bring the teen creativity into the rest of the library and make them feel like they are wanted in the rest of the library. And finally, I think some basic things that need to be done are adding some signage and some technology. As we discussed before, the main sign for the space is inside the space. And so that means that you have to be in the space in order to read it. There is nothing warning you that you are entering this space. When I talked to the teen service librarian, they said that they haven't had a huge issue with tweens at this time, but they are currently having an issue with adults encroaching on the space because they are so used to this space being an adult space, and it is not clearly marked as anything else at this time. So I would want to remove the mention of tweens from the one sign so that we can completely prevent that from being a problem, and then move the current signs to be at the entrance of the space so that people are aware when they are entering the space that it is something separate from the rest of the library. There's also no technology really represented in the space that is usable by the teens. There is that charging station so teens can bring in their own devices and charge them while they're there and use them, but there is nothing there for teens who maybe don't have access to technology in that way. So, without spending money, my suggestion would be to take one of the many computers that is in the main part of the branch and move it to be in the teen space so that it is dedicated specifically for teen usage. As I said, I ended up literally yesterday at an event where I had access to the teen service librarian. I had written 90% of my paper before I talked to her, and this was just an impromptu discussion that I felt like I could ask a few questions and just see what she was thinking. As I've said, the teen space is brand new, so again, that feeling of it not being really lived in, not inhabited by the teens, is at least partially because it is a new space. There's a lot of things that can be done to make the space better, they just haven't gotten around to it yet. I believe when I talked to her yesterday, she said literally today they are having a meeting to discuss the direction that they want to go with in this space. And we talked about a lot of the things that I had already decided on, that there needs to be better signage to help prevent other people from moving into the space and taking it over. She wants to requisition more technology, that she wants computers of her own. She's talked about getting a CD player of some kind so that the teens can listen to audiobooks if they don't have a device like that at home. Things like that. They want to paint the space, and she's looking at more ways to make passive interactive areas like the tiny art show a more permanent fixture. But overall, most of the things that she said are things that I had already been thinking. They are moving in that direction, they just haven't gotten there yet. But that's an overview of the ACPL's teen space. Please let me know what you think. I would love to know. I would love to be able to chat with the librarians a little bit more after they've had their meeting and kind of see what they're actually doing. But I think a few key changes would make a large difference in this space.